Good evening, Professor Davis. I am going to be doing my final presentation on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, an Existential Study. First, I want to give you a bit of background about the novel information. The title of this book is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. It was written by Philip K. Dick in 1968 and was actually the inspiration behind the movie Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. I did not know this before I read this book, and although I've never seen the movies, now I kind of want to. A lot of the conflicts in this story are listed beside that. Androids versus humans, humans versus empathy, human versus religion, androids versus empathy, and human versus human. All these conflicts kind of melded together in a very interesting way, and I gotta admit, it was a very, very good book. If you haven't read it, I would definitely read this book. Now, a quick summary of the book itself. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is a story set in post-apocalyptic Earth in the year 2021, and the city is San Francisco. So, all in all, the setting is a 2021 post-apocalyptic San Francisco. Years earlier, a war happened. It was called World War Terminus, and it killed most of the animals on the planet. The radiation became so bad that a lot of the humans actually emigrated to an outpost on Mars. And every person who immigrated to Mars was given an android as almost a personal assistant. Now, these androids actually look very, very, very human. You cannot tell by looking at an android versus a person which one it is. Like, the only way you can do that is by doing a test called the Vogel-Kampff scale, which I will talk about in a minute. There's a lot of different elements to this book. Mercerism is the religion that they follow at the time, and they use a black empathy box, which is a virtual reality simulator that allows them to go into the world of Mercer, which Mercer was a man who was, he's climbing a mountain, and he is trying to get to the top of this mountain, but he's being pelted by stones and rocks, and it shows that you can still make it, even if you're going through basically hell. The Vogel-Kampff scale is an empathy test that is used on androids to determine if they're an android or a human. The Penn mood organ is an implant at the base of their spine that allows them to control their emotions. And a lot of the animals had died during the time, so people started using electric animals, which actually is kind of a bad thing. You have to be able, in this society, you have to be able to take care of an animal. And if you have an electric animal, you're actually less in society's eyes. And Buster Friendly is a gentleman who is the head of a TV show that is very, very important to the ending of this story. He's kind of like a comedian, like just keeps people entertained. Rick Deckard is the main character. He is a bounty hunter for renegade androids that came to San Francisco from Earth, or from Mars to Earth. And the whole thing through the story is that he's hunting 8 androids and coming into conflict with his empathy towards them. Rachel Rosen is an android who works with the Rosen Corporation, and that's the corporation that creates the androids. And then there's J.R. Isidore, a special, or someone who isn't as fit or as mentally capable as others, who ends up helping 3 of the androids hide from Rick Deckard. There are 3 main existential themes that I'm going to briefly talk about, and that is God is dead, freedom and empathy, and authenticity. The first one, God is dead. This is a very existential theme. In fact, many, many existentialists do believe that God is dead. Well, at the end of the book, he's literally dead. Buster Friendly, through the entire book, is saying, I have this giant announcement to make, and this is going to, like, change the world. And no one knows what it is until the very end when the broadcast is done. And here he finds out that the virtual reality world was completely fake. There was never a Mercer in the first place. The religious icon is blown out of the water and is shown as a fake. And this follows the existential idea that there is no God. God is dead. God cannot help you. And it's kind of strange because a lot of people want to believe this. They're like, no, this is impossible, especially J.R. Isidore, because he can't accept that Mercer is real because that's literally the only thing he has. He doesn't have any friends. He has a job that kind of sucks. But he still wants to basically prove that Mercer is still real. And it showcases how technology can manipulate our minds into believing something that isn't true, which in today's day and age, that happens more often than not. And it shows that without a God to protect and help people during hard times, some humans can't cope. So they just choose to ignore the truth that there is no God, that God is dead, for a better fantasy that, yes, he is alive. He's there to help me. He will be with me through the hardest times of my life, when really there is no such thing. Freedom and empathy. Humans are not free in this world. They're not even free to choose their own emotions. And that's why I bring up the Penn moot organ, is because they can't feel how they want to feel. And this is probably the biggest showing of how people are not free in this world, even though it's kind of an afterthought. Like, you don't really examine it all too much as you're reading it. But it's brought up pretty early in the story. It says, I have it written down. There it is. In the beginning of the story, Rick and his wife, Iran, are talking, and this is straight out of the book. I program an automatic resetting for 3 hours later, his wife said sleekly. A 481, awareness of the manifold possibilities opens me in the future. A new hope that, I know 481, he interrupted. He had dialed the combination many times. Listen, he said, seating himself on the bed. Even with an automatic cutoff, it's dangerous to undergo a depression of any kind. Forget what you've scheduled, now forget what I've scheduled, and we'll dial the 104 together and both experience it. From the bedroom, Iran's voice came. I can't stand TV before breakfast. Dial 888, Rick said as the set warmed. The desire to watch TV, no matter what is on. I don't feel like dialing anything now, Iran said. Then dial 3, he said. I can't dial a setting that stimulates my cerebral cortex into wanting to dial. Dick, 1968. They can't even decide how they want to feel in this story. They are not free. They can't even understand. Like, some people who do go through depressions, because that's what she was talking about in the beginning. She wanted to feel depressed. And Rick's like, that's dangerous. You shouldn't do that. But yet being happy in a horrible situation all the time, that's just as dangerous. So it shows that these people cannot be free. They cannot be authentic, which I will talk later about, of their own feelings. How can you possibly be free in a society where you can't even be free to understand how you want to think? You can't even, like, be upset in the morning. There's a number, I can't remember the exact number, but there's a number that makes you feel happy waking up even if you're upset. Now, I have a list here of ways that people cannot be free. J.R. Isidore is a chicken head. He's unable to be free because of his social class. The androids, they're unable to be free because they're machines, even though they might be able to feel empathy. And that's the whole idea of this story, is that the idea of empathy and what makes us human. Rick Deckard is unable to be free because his job tells him that he needs to retire these androids, but he's starting to realize that these androids might be able to feel that empathy, be able to feel true empathy towards things. But he has to ignore that. He can't be authentic to his own feelings. Speaking of authenticity, Rick cannot be authentic to himself. He asks Mercer if he should be doing what he's doing with the androids, and Mercer says, go and do your task even though it is wrong. That is not authentic at all. You cannot be authentic to yourself if you're dictated by your religious icon that you need to do it even if it's wrong. Rick doesn't want to retire any more androids. He's not authentic to himself and his feelings by continuing to retire them. And unable to be able to be authentic is denying his true self. And the conclusion to that is humans at this time are unable to be authentic. Do Andrew's Dream of Electric Sheep is a wonderful story on freedom and authenticity and being able to feel what you want to feel even when other people can't or telling you no. It's a beautifully done story, absolutely wonderful, and there are so many existential themes in this book. I had to only choose 3 because if I had chosen more than that, it would have been an extremely long paper and an even longer examination on this presentation. So I hope you like the points that I made so far. If you have not read this book, please read this book. It is a wonderful description of humans and morality, and it kind of ties in so many existential themes to it. It is beautifully done, and personally, now that I've read it, it is probably one of my top 10 favorite books. So thank you very much for the opportunity to read this book. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and this is a list of my references. Please have a good day, and thank you so much for the wonderful turn.